All right, I'm joined by, we'll go with Elmer McRiverbottom, but if you squint, you know the true identity. And just for some context, when people are watching this, they've already seen Little Smokies. They just watched it, and so they know my shame of having a food phobia.
Yes.
And then last month, at the Halloween edition of the Social Distancing Cinema, they watched Computer Man as part of the Halloween party. So I mentioned in the Q&A after that last month that I wished that you had been on so that you could talk about making Computer Man and specifically the costume and shooting in the summer heat in that. So
Yes.
you mentioned rewatching Computer Man for this. So could you talk about what you remember about Computer Man?
I would I would love to. And first of all, I will offer a apology that's public and also mostly to you because I know I don't attend the things because I don't have 10 minutes normally, much less an hour or whatever, because the two kiddos and the bedtimes, it's constant screaming and madness here. So apologies. But um, God, Computer Man was you showed up the first day. I feel like, and all my memories could be false. I am an idiot. But you showed up the first day and you're like, well, here's your costume. And it's this like one piece snowsuit that, correct me if I'm wrong, was a women's small. Is that true?
I don't remember the size. I still have it. I could look it up.
Well, maybe it's sexist to assume it was a woman's suit just because the colors, maybe, or maybe you told me that, or I just made it up. But this thing was clearly made for a 5'4" petite female. So of course I stuffed my 5'11" frame into it, and it was comfortable. It was good, and you just couldn't move. I mean, you could walk, you could run, but dear God, you tried to sit down, and I I should
Yeah, I
have
remember that. I remember
just
having
worn that suit the rest of my life.
I remember that being something that we had to negotiate like day of that I hadn't even thought of as like we can get you in it standing up, but then how do you sit down? And
Yeah,
also how do you go to the bathroom?
yeah, it was great. I didn't mind sashaying around downtown Frankfurt in that and in the public parks in the 85-degree heat, 90-degree heat, this thing, and then covered with aluminum foil and 10 pounds of 1980s technology, which was good because so we had I wrote this down, I watched it, and I'm like, God, what all did we get in there? And only after thinking through the items did I realize every time that we costumed up to shoot, which back then we did shoots, we didn't have kids. It was just like who has to get home to let the dog out. So we could shoot for like 6 or 8 hours at a time, right? Um, but we had to like try to offer some continuity to it. It's like, okay, how did I have this weird antenna thing on my head and the wires were all draped just so, and um, we had this thing here and the calculator had tape in it, and it was stupid how much thought and care we tried to put into it. But we had like
Yes.
keyboard, mouse, do what?
I know I was agreeing with you. I mean, I remember like, if we want to get started rolling at say 2, we'd better get there at 1 to get you outfitted.
Which was silly. We had a keyboard, mouse, a 10 key calculator with the tape, an old modem stuck here on my chest. We had 2 or 3 or 4 Ethernet cables, an AV cable, and we had the one on my head was like the cable you connected the N64 to the TV with. I don't, for some reason that one sticks out to me. It's like, this is so ridiculous that this is the costume now. But I loved it. It was good. Um,
It is one of the better costumes. It may actually be the best. Although I will add that having you in it in the summer with all the electronics and the tinfoil and the snowsuit or ski suit is second only to like leaving Travis in the graveyard in the middle of the night in terms of like the most irresponsible and possibly dangerous things that we've done.
That's explainable though. Like I would have much rather been in my situation than Travis. And in the dead of night, in the middle of nowhere, dressed up like that. I mean, like you watch
Without
Computer.
your glasses.
Yeah. Oh God, that's true. In Computer Man, I'm standing on that rock doing Tai Chi or whatever. And that's like looking over the city of Frankfurt in this public park. And thank God, I don't think anybody was there that day, but there totally could have been. And I don't care. If you are familiar with Frankfurt, anybody watching this, know that in that summer, Cove Springs Park and a certain, I think it was called the Ash Building on, was it 421 or Witherspoon Drive, whatever that is, it goes around the whole city. You could have easily seen us making fools of ourselves and we would have waved to you in your car. I'm sure we did wave to people. But that's what Frankfurt needed at that time. I think it helped probably divide the country further.
Good. Then we've done our part.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else about Computer Man? I mean, I feel like that was, despite everything, one of the more efficient shoots. Like, we just kind of show up and do it.
It was great. It really was. We didn't have to do any reshoots on that one, did we?
Not that I recall. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I'm so grateful for those hashtag films where we don't have reshoots. That's always so frustrating for everybody involved. But no, the only other things that I wrote down I wanted to mention were how slightly awkward it was to tell your wife time and time again that my giblets were smashed in a car accident. B, Seth Reeder having to quote unquote hit on his sister as one of the hooligans, dressed up and doing Brian's weird crab hands suggestive dance, which I totally forgot about until I watched again and I loved. I think we talked about this back then, but I think as Computer Man, my motivation for speaking was Jordan Schlansky. I feel like, and I got that when I was watching it again yesterday. It's like, oh yeah, that's Jordan I'm trying to sound like. So
I didn't remember that, but yeah, totally. If you're not familiar with Jordan Schlansky, it's definitely worth the YouTube rabbit hole.
There's hours of it now. It keeps building. And the only other thing I have is how much fun it was making the Bees rap track for that.
Yeah, it was so good that I used every frame of the footage that we shot with Brian and Seth. Like, I just didn't want it to end. So when you're watching Computer Man and you're thinking like, why is all of this in there? It just is.
You didn't ask for that. Like all the weird, stupid, like just me noodling with a guitar and pedals because I'm awful at guitar. That was done for Computer Man, but the Bees track, as well as one or two other things I think I sent you back then, I was just infatuated with like cutting samples and putting them on beats back then, from samples from one of Pop-Tarts things. So there's more out there.
Oh, nice. I'm excited. And
oh, no,
I love
you have it.
Dude, what was the last thing?
You have it. There was one that was like 5 minutes long that I did.
Got it somewhere.
Anyway.
Yeah, I wanted to add, you mentioned something. I wish I were a better interviewer in moments like this. I had a follow-up to Seth sexually harassing his sister. So one more quick thing about Computer Man. My character is another hooligan that is just spray painting the word fart on a building, and you still have that. You use that to build your basement, the fart
That
board.
is a permanent part of my house now. We have we had an unfinished basement when we moved in here 3.5 years ago, and I basically just like redid the stairway because it was super creaky, and just the treads. I didn't build stairs. I'm not intelligent. And put like a wall down the middle of the basement to separate like the furnace and non-furnace sides. And that wall has plywood in some of it to even it out with the rest of the wall. And that fart plywood is part of my house now.
Good.
Thank goodness.
Fart forever. So moving on from Computer Man to Little Smokies, which everybody just watched. I mentioned earlier that the fear of Little Smokies, well, the fear of like going to potlucks, RIP in peace, and finding Little Smokies on the table, that's real for me. And so you basically just you were acting in like a biopic of my life, or sort of a documentary. But you actually ate a little Smoky for the first time.
No, I'd eaten them before, I think, but I never heard about eating them with grape jelly and something else that surprised me outside of barbecue sauce. But I take that back. I'd never eaten a Little Smoky straight out of the package, not heated up. So that was new. Thank you for that.
And how did that go?
That was not pleasant. It's basically, I mean, it's the same as taking out a hot dog and eating it out of the package, I guess, but with a thicker, gristlier skin, and there's no heat to mask the sadness.
Well said. How mad at me were you when we did the take? I think I'm going to include the blooper reel with this, but we did the take where you have to bite it and you're chewing on it, and then I started laughing, as I'm notorious for doing. We have a good take of something like deeply uncomfortable, and I start laughing.
It's nothing new. I mean, that was probably the third or fourth take of that anyway, right? So we had already finished that 8-second shot, and I had run to the trash can to spit it out anyway. So say la vie. If I didn't expect that, I wouldn't have signed up for this for the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's fair. It's never gotten any better.
You would think that planning would get better, or I would get smarter, and I don't know. One of us would figure shit out, but that's okay. It takes us just as long now as it did back in the brain damage days.
True. And also, all things coming full circle, started with food horror, with a serial killer with pot pies, and now here we are.
True. I think I said it in one of our events before, but I have a food horror. I have two food horrors, but one actually is from an experience. One is salads that aren't salads, where people have turkey salad, bologna salad, any meat salad, chicken salad, gross. I don't want that. I don't know what it is. I know it's just probably mayo and then some little bits of that meat stuck in there, but those things are not, meat and salad don't go together like that. But I have no reason to think that. I just think it's disgusting. The other one is meatloaf, and I will not ever, ever, ever eat or touch meatloaf. This was something I'm facing now with my soon-to-be 3-year-old. Of kids have certain foods they hate for no reason, and mine as a kid was meatloaf. I guess maybe I tried it. I don't know, but my mom was determined that I would eat meatloaf one night. And I think it was just a battle of the wills. It wasn't about the meatloaf. It was just, eat what I give you, which is totally fair. I'm on board with that. But in my rebellion, I apparently took a bite of meatloaf. I remember this. This is not a story my mom just tells. But I took a single bite of meatloaf, sat there with it in my mouth, and cried for 30 minutes. Um, I could not tell you if I was 3 years old or 8 years old
Or 21.
or 21. But apparently she claims I broke her. And there was no more meatloaf forced upon me, nor much of anything too much forced upon me. But I still will not touch meatloaf to this day. That's what
That'll
I,
learn her.
yeah.
Don't you also have a fear, or well, not fear, but what do we want to say? An issue with foods that are like the wrong temperature.
Oh, that's right. I do. That's a general thing. Um, my wife will eat anything. If she likes a food, she'll eat it at any temperature. I will not eat a food that is not meant to be eaten at that temperature, with very few exceptions. Like I'm getting used to pizza now, where I'll kind of eat some pizza cold. But if there's a hot food, like I don't know, if you have grilled chicken or something, I'm not going to pull it out of the fridge and eat it. I have to microwave that. So nasty. Good point. I won't do that.
That may just be like a food safety concern. I mean,
But
it's anything.
it's an evolutionary. I'm more advanced, I would claim. Yeah. Not at all.
I agree.
You get the green beans out of the fridge and they've got that weird scum on it. I don't want to eat that. You got to get rid of that. Put the grease back in the bean. Don't make me eat it separately.
I agree. Well said. Did you have anything additional to bring up about Little Smokies? Any grievances to air?
No grievances, but if you're not sick of me yet, I have a few other notes. One is the joy of drinking I don't know if it was a Scorpion Bowl or some other drink that they had, the flaming thing in Little Smokies at the Limbo Bar, but that was delightful.
Scorpion Bowl. Yeah. Shout out to the Limbo also.
Yes. I wrote down that I love the opening scene of that, how it highlights how we just don't give a shit about production value to some extent, because like I'm a little kid with a 5 o'clock shadow and my arms inside my shirt, and you're a mammal with your facial hair, and it's obviously just you with a wig and a robot. It's very Medea, but without millions of dollars. I would argue it's better. And
yeah, I agree.
One interesting part I thought was maybe this is just totally wrong, but looking back at Cold Air versus Little Smokies, I don't know if it's that we're more responsible now, or if just the times were different. But like in Little Smokies, I had that bottle of wine, and if this was the Cold Air days, I would have just had wine in there and just done 20 takes. Be fine, because it's a night out, we're shooting, this is fun. But for Little Smokies, it was just water. I don't know why I thought of that when I was trying to think of stuff to talk about for Little Smokies, but I drank a lot for Cold Air, which helped with the character, I would argue. Whereas this had very little alcohol, even though there was some consumed, and the only true I can remember was that Scorpion Bowl.
I can't remember why. I know there was a reason why we went with water. Oh, well, it's a long story, but I can tell you later. I'll just tell you later because it's not all that interesting. There was a kind of lame reason we went with water, and it's basically just because like I remembered everything. I pre-ordered a crock pot, the little crock pot, for Little Smokies. I had everything in order, and the one thing that I forgot was like a bottle of wine or something for you to be taking drinks from.
Oh,
We just didn't have the prop.
we had I think we had it, and it's the wine bottle we use for like olive oil. I think is what it was, and I had to pour that out and wash it,
Yes.
put water. Yeah.
Yeah,
more,
yeah, it
but
was your olive oil bottle. So you got, you know, additional lubrication out of it.
it helped. I don't know. I don't know.
Um,
It was a good
well,
time.
if you didn't have anything else to add, and I don't want to block your shot if you do, I just had one more question for you, and this is just I just thought of this while you were talking about it. How weird is it to you that so it's November 2020, we finished shooting this in January of this year because we went back and did like just a handful of reshoots back around the first of the year.
Was that the with Sully in them? Where you came
Um,
to the house with those reshoots?
the only thing that I remember really clearly from this year was at the end. Um, we went back and got some extra dialogue from Whitney or something like that, like something that took
God.
10 minutes that I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
remember clearly, but yeah.
that that is that is crazy. That that was 10 months ago. Um, time is meaningless.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime. Like I feel like that Little Smokies has been finished forever, but it's not been a full year since it premiered at Brimwagon.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy. I not to steal your thunder at all, but when I went back and watched Computer Man yesterday, I thought, well, I'm here. I might as well go and watch um, like Wiggles and Shelf Elf. And Shelf Elf was eight. No, Wiggles was 8 years ago, and Shelf Elf was like 6 years ago. That's nuts. Um,
Yes. In one way it feels like yesterday. In another way it feels like an eternity.
mhm.
I
Good.
remember, this is just a sidebar. I remember finishing editing Wiggles Buffet at William T. Young Library on election day in 2012. So I went and
Wow.
voted and then went to the library and used Matt Jackson's login info so that I could pretend to be a student and edit. But yeah, okay, that's all that I had unless you had any more traumas to share.
um, thank God Little Smokies was not outdoors except for that one scene where Brian's playing guitar.
Yeah, I
Everything.
those days are probably gone now of the sub-zero temps and also just the boiling, well, that day was boiling hot, but yeah, more indoor shoots.
Yeah.
That's my campaign promise. More indoor shoots. All right, well, that's all that I had, so thank you for joining us.
Hooray. Thank you.